Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for today's writing lesson. Today is Thursday, so we'll be working on lesson 4 and we're focusing on informative writing. Here's our learning intention. We are learning to plan an information report about an Australian animal. And today, for our success criteria, we are focusing on 3 different things. So if you tuned into yesterday's lesson, you would have seen that we focused on 3 things to do, and today we've got 3 more things to do. Let's see what they are today. I can gather information about an animal's diet. I can gather information about an animal's habitat. And I can gather information about an interesting fact. So these are the 3 things we'll be focusing on today. So if you will remember from last lesson, these are the 4 steps to writing an information report. Step 1, research information. So that's what we have been doing. In yesterday's lesson, we started researching information about an Australian animal that you chose. So hopefully you were able to find some books or use the internet or use your knowledge in your head of what you know about Australian animals to start gathering that information, which leads us to step 2, to gather information. So hopefully you've got your own gathering information chart set up there in your workbook at home or on a piece of paper at home, and you started writing some keywords and important information onto your chart that you found yesterday. And remember then, after that, after we do all of our gathering information, we write our final report, and then the last step is to check the report and make sure we've got everything we need. So just to remind us, let's remember that we are completing these 2 steps today. We're completing step 1 and we're completing step 2. We're researching and we're gathering information. So yesterday, you might remember I showed you some examples of Australian animals that you might choose from. Hopefully yesterday you chose your Australian animal that you would like to focus on. I will still provide some of the fact sheets that I showed you in yesterday's lesson, just in case you would still like to go back and look at some of this information for your gathering information chart today. So remember, at any time you can pause or stop the video and rewind or go back to any of these fact sheets if they involve your chosen animal and you want to use some of this information. So if you're writing about a kangaroo, you can pause your video here. If you're writing about a koala, you can pause your video here. And remember, today we are focusing on the habitat, and I'll just get my pen, the habitat and the diet. So here's a hint, you can find some of this information on these fact sheets here that I'm showing you now. And you also need to find an interesting fact. So if you wanted an interesting fact, you could definitely take it from the population information or the main threats information. If you're focusing on echidnas, you could use this fact sheet. If you're focusing on platypus, you could use this one. If you're writing about dingoes, you could use this fact sheet. If you're writing about possums, you could use this one. All right, and just to refresh our memories, I have put again our research types, so the different ways that we can conduct research. So remember, you can continue to use books that you might have at home, you can use the internet, or you can use the television. Maybe you've watched a TV show or a movie about animals before and you can remember what that information was. So here are the 3 things that you need to focus on today. Number 1, research and gather information about the diet. So today we really want to find information about the animal's diet, what it eats. Step 2, research and gather information about the habitat. So we want to know where the animal lives, what kinds of environments the animal might live in. And step 3, to research and gather information about an interesting fact. So maybe an interesting fact is something that you found interesting while you were researching your Australian animal. So let's just go through those 3 important things again. We need information about the diet, what the animal eats. We need information about the habitat, what kinds of environments it lives in. And lastly, we need an interesting fact, something that you found interesting about your Australian animal. So I can't wait to read that part actually. I love reading interesting facts about animals. And if you come across more than one interesting fact and you would like to add that into your gathering information chart, you can definitely add more than one interesting fact if you like. Hopefully you kept your gathering information chart from yesterday's lesson where you would have written down the keywords or short notes about your chosen Australian animal. So the animal that I chose for this example was kangaroos, and you can see that I've got the classification information at the top, and I've also got my appearance information in that section. So I've got my short list describing what kangaroos look like. Now today we are focusing on the animal's diet, so the things that it eats, and the animal's habitat, so the places where it might live, and interesting facts. So like I said before, if you come across more than one interesting fact, you can write them down. However, one interesting fact is definitely plenty and will be excellent. Now, just to show you another example of what to do, here is the information that I collected about kangaroos. So I found in my research that kangaroos like to eat these 4 things: grasses, flowers, leaves, and insects. So those are the 4 things I chose to write down about the kangaroo's diet. Then when I was researching the kangaroo's habitat, I found that kangaroos can live in these 3 places: grasslands, woodlands, and forests. So you can see I haven't written full sentences, I've just written keywords. And for my interesting fact, I did want to write that into a full sentence. And my interesting fact is a group of kangaroos is called a mob. I wonder if you knew that before. A group of kangaroos is called a mob. So maybe you might like to find out what a group of your chosen animal is called, and you might like to use that for your interesting facts. There's a hint for you. Now just remember, when you're writing down your information into your gathering information chart, you don't have to write full sentences, okay? You are simply collecting information. You can just write short notes and keywords that show the most important information, just like I've done in my example here. If you are not sure of how to do this, you can definitely come back to this slide and watch it again. Before you go off and do your research for today's sections of your gathering information chart, here is a quick reminder of some of the great websites you can access to get to some information about Australian animals. And just remember that I have put these links on our week 8 writing slides, so you can click on the links there. You won't be able to click on the links in this video. You'll need to go back to the writing slides and find the links there. Remember that I've also included some links to some great videos you can watch about Australian animals and some drawing videos, just in case some of you hadn't finished your illustrated, your label drawing from yesterday's lesson. You can still access the links on the writing slides today if you need to. Now here's another reminder today of our information report checklist that we are using to make sure we've got everything we need. So yesterday we ticked off the classification and the appearance. Those are the things we wrote about yesterday, the things we gathered information about yesterday. And today we really want to be focusing on habitat, diet, and interesting facts, the three things that are left on our checklist. So before you all go and do your research today, I just wanted to remind you that you can stop or pause the video here just to remind you of the different things that you will need if you like. And when you're done, you can tick them off in your head. So when you're done finding information about the habitat, you can tick that. When you're done finding information about the diet, you can tick that. And when you're done collecting your interesting fact or facts, you can tick that part as well. So now you can have some time to do those three parts that we are focusing on today. And hopefully by the end of today's lesson, you would have a completed gathering information chart about your Australian animal that you chose. I can't wait to see your finished gathering information chart, so make sure you take a picture of it and upload it to your Google Doc for week 8. And then next week we will be using that information to do a completed information report. You should all be very proud of your efforts so far. This is a very, very tricky thing to do with so many steps involved. We've got 4 steps that we are following to do this information report process. So I'm very proud and impressed of the effort that you have all put in so far. Keep it up. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to finish your gathering information chart, and now we can finish off our lesson with our reflection. We are learning to plan an information report about an Australian animal. Remember, we're still in the planning stage. We're still gathering and collecting our information before we actually write it into our finished information report, which we'll do next week. Let's check our success criteria. I can gather information about an animal's diet. We did that. I can gather information about an animal's habitat. We did that too. And I can gather information about an interesting fact, and we did that as well. Now remember, you can go back to any part of this video that you weren't sure about by rewinding the video and pausing and listening again if you need to. I know there are lots of steps to what we're doing, so if you're confused at any point, you can definitely go back and have another look and listen. Well done, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.